I'm not like what I like. I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like. All right, but a couple things before we get to the Kaepernick joint. If I can, one of them. So I heard about this. This story. I had not seen the video. But in our household, which is, of course, has that extremely strong Panamanian contingent. This story is of some particular interest to me. As someone who's a music fan and a parent of daughters, and someone who has at least somewhat of a background talking a little bit about the music industry. I thought this story was very interesting. The video has since been pulled, but this song for the video for the song Perra, or Female Dog, by Balvin, has caused some issues. And primarily because, and I didn't even find one in the setup here, but Balvin, pictured here on I guess that's the right still, right? He one of the biggest reggaeton stars, and reggaeton that sort of, because Panama, I don't know, I didn't know a lot about Panama before I married into the Panamanian world, to be quite honest. But Panama, like a lot of countries in Central and South America, has a strong Caribbean background and Jamaican history in particular. People brought over to work on the canal back in the day, and all of that history with the pre-existing African history, as the late Runoko Rashidi and the late Ivan Van Sertima had talked about for years. Panama is thought to have had as its actual original inhabitants African people from way back in the day, who prior to Columbus had come over here and engaged with the people there. So with that history, with the history of the indigenous and the broader African world coming in from the Caribbean and elsewhere to work on the canal, there's this, and even my brother-in-law raps under the name Bayano, the legendary maroon African 16th century, I want to say, maroon king. There is this strong history in that region that blends, as is the case throughout the indigenous African experiences. But of course, with that is still that remaining anti-blackness, that under discussed in Latin America racial divide, that many attempt to subsume underneath specific identities as Latin Americans or as Panamanians or Colombians, etc., and so forth. So this Colombian cat, Panama's neighbor, wait, is Balvin Colombian or I can't remember, but because there was another piece where there was a video of, similar to the video for his song Perra, of a Colombian man walking a woman on a leash like a dog, treating her like a dog. And then the problem with Balvin's video, of course, was that it was darker skinned Black women who were pictured in one of the pictures I saw. I never did see the video before it got pulled, walking And it's supposed to be their argument, including the woman here who worked with him on the song. Their argument is it's not. It was originally supposed to be about women being, taking control of their sexuality by being acknowledging their sexuality and the desire for sex and being like a dog in heat. And but then it gets turned. Well, I actually never agree with that. I don't think women are claiming power when they say the so-called B word any more than black people are claiming power over language when using the so-called N word. But the point still is that you end up with the same sort of, we're right back where we were back when in the late 80s, early 90s, when my generation was dealing with the backlash against Luke and the Miami sound and all the videos and all of that. Or for those of us in the DC area who would be familiar with the backlash against go-go, always associating it with anti-woman messages, images, and partying and treatment. But we're right back here with that, with him literally walking women on black women on leashes and them acting like dogs, perras, and being treated as such. So now for me, even more than the anti-black, anti-woman messages, for me, the issue is that while a lot of what I was hearing or seeing discussed was a condemnation of Balvin, he's come out and apologized, all of this, the same kind of thing. Even in one of these articles, there was a criticism of the fact that blacker Panamanian and reggaeton entertainers haven't risen, in part because they aren't fair skinned as he is. And while I'm sure all of that is true, the issue for me that doesn't seem to be getting discussed is that he is distributed on Universal Music, which is UMG, which is the biggest music company in the world, which is and honestly, I didn't even do the latest on it. I think Vivendi was selling UMG to another private equity group. But my point is that for the longest time, UMG, the biggest music company in the world, is a subsidiary of an even larger French conglomerate, where Lucien Grange, for the longest time, a French white man, was seen to be the most powerful man in music, and may still be, or whoever took his place at the head of that company. And for whatever people want to say about the individual artists, the reality is they have the least amount of control over the final product and what becomes or who becomes popular. Again, even if someone starts on the underground and rises to certain levels of prominence, which is what you have to do at this point to get attention from labels for the most part. They don't build and curate artists as maybe has once upon a time happened. You still have to, in order to get that buzz, you still have to comport, and this is the trick of in critical media literacy or colonial studies, propaganda, psychological warfare studies, the underattended reality or point is that in order to even create that buzz, you have to be producing something that your audience is already primed and ready to receive. So even it's not like the likelihood of creating or generating that groundswell, doing something very different in terms of sound or content, that's not how these things work. Again, what people like is imposed. It is not a natural, inherent, innate development. Popularity is a construct like any other. So for Balvin to have been hot, he would have had to deliver a worldview, a message, a style that is already being welcomed by an audience that has itself been primed and developed. So a couple years ago, when there was that expose that came out about the Trump White House, in one of these major outlets. And what I thought was so fascinating about it was that there was a question in the expose in an attempt to say that Fox News, because of course it was a left-leaning, liberal, whatever, not really left, but liberal. And what they were saying was that Fox News, or attempting to say that Fox News created Trump. And the interviewee, again, who I'm forgetting at the moment, really gave the best answer, which was that it wasn't that Fox News created Trump. Fox News, or Rupert Murdoch more specifically, created the audience for which, or to which, a Trump could appeal successfully. And that's sort of the point, that Trump wasn't delivering something new. He was delivering something that an already primed audience wanted. So Balvin in this way is doing the exact same thing. All artists are. These are young. Again, they're mostly coming out of the poor sections of these communities. They're coming out of difficult circumstances. And even if they're not per se, they're still young people. So they don't necessarily, are not likely, at least, to understand how all of this works, to understand what is in fact going on as they pursue their careers and their riches and their fame. So unconsciously, young artists will look to what is successful. Yeah, anybody does this, actually. I mean, it's in any field. You look to what has worked and you say, I'm going to do that. So I just don't like that. As much as he deserves the criticism and to be checked and to have his worldview corrected, which we all need, it has to be remembered that he is a product of an existing apparatus and system that is designed to put that there. And were he to have a different kind of content, maybe where he was praising Black women as strong, beautiful people that they are, he would not have risen to the heights that he's risen to. So he would not have, maybe he wouldn't have gotten the cameos with bigger artists that other reggaeton stars have not gotten, or he would not have, etc., etc., etc. He would not have been in a position to be put on this pedestal to be criticized and rightfully checked as he is and should be at this point. So